this is always an interesting question for me, because 9 times out of 10, the people who ask this question, to my ears, have very, very little problem with their pronunciation. Your pronunciation sounds great to me. So I don't think you need to worry about it too much. The 80-20 gains benefit, however, I think is for most people, especially your level, going to come from focusing first and foremost on chunking their English better. Because what we tend to do is we tend to overthink the little sounds. And, it's very, very common for Japanese people as well, because, L and R, it's the same sound. That might be the same for Korean as well, I'm not too sure. B and V are the same sound, and, they tend to really overthink those sounds. Now, it's a tricky topic, because on the one hand, people want to get it right. And yes, you should try to get it right. On the other hand, it actually doesn't really impact on communication for the most part at all. And really, for most native speakers, it kind of just sounds like, oh, this person speaks Korean as their first language, or this person speaks Japanese as their first language. We don't think anything beyond that. But also, overthinking the sounds too much is counterproductive, because then you start to confuse yourself, and you're now relying on conscious processing of the language, and you're thinking about everything as you say it. What I would say is kind of what we talked about last week. First of all, concentrate on chunking better. That's where you're going to get the real 80-20 results. Learn to chunk better, and with that, better pronunciation will follow. Now, if there are specific sounds that you are struggling with and you're concerned about, we can then do is start to focus on those. So if it is, for example, the R and the L sound, what I would recommend is say, pick one and concentrate on just one sound at a time. For example, if you're using the supplementary materials that I'm giving you, practice reading the dialogues, really focusing on those sounds, trying to get it as good as possible. But the key there is really try to do one thing at a time. Because if you're trying to focus on everything, you're just going to confuse yourself, and it's going to become really messy. That said, I would still say that you would be better off focusing on the chunking side of things first. I don't really listen to you and think, oh my God, she pronounces things really badly. So it also might be more indicative of a mindset issue than an actual issue with your pronunciation. And this is often the case. If you watched the recording of my Master English Fast Quick Start event that I did in Taipei last month, one of the questions that came up there was really about making mistakes. And it was a really good question, but really the deeper underlying problem there was really a fundamental concern with making mistakes, and kind of a hyper awareness of that, and really just being too sensitive to it, to the point where the person who asked the question was really just being held back, and it wasn't helping her out at all. And it may be the same for you with the pronunciation. So that's also something to think about. Have you submitted your homework for week 2 yet?
I did today.
Okay. Did you talk about pronunciation in there at all?
Yes.
Cool. So that is probably a big part of what's going on. If you submitted it today, I won't have got to that yet, but I will be doing it at 2 p.m. today. So I'll be sure to pay close attention to that and beat it out of you if I have to.